So once you've installed IntelliJ, you can go ahead and open it up and select Create New Project. And on the left hand side, choose Gradle. So Gradle will be our dependency manager, which we'll use to import the tools we need for our framework. Select Java under Additional Libraries and Frameworks. And under Project SDK, choose your Java version that you've installed. So for Java 8, it would say 1.8. And if you don't see anything in this drop-down, it's most likely that you have an issue with your bash profile. So either check the prerequisite steps or Google configuring your Java version with your bash profile. That is how IntelliJ is finding it automatically for me. Once that's done, you can go ahead and click Next. And then IntelliJ will prompt you to select a name for your project. So let's call it API Automation Framework. Under Artifact Coordinates, some default data has been populated. You can change this if you wish. So for example, the group ID is org.example. This would usually be like a company name. So let's just call it Test Company and select Finish. So IntelliJ is now building the structure of the project. We can see that some syncing is going on and some files have been generated for us. So if we take a closer look, we can see that there is a source directory created, and within that there is a test directory, and that's where we'll be doing most of our work. Under Java, we'll be generating our Java classes, which will be the basis of this framework. And resources is where we will be adding Cucumber feature files in order to make tests and run tests, as well as setting our configuration. Build.gradle is what we'll be focusing on for now, so that is our dependency file. So if you open build.gradle, you can see on line 14 the dependencies are specified. So we can see JUnit has been added by default, but we won't be using JUnit, so we can clear that and we'll add our first dependency. I'll show you where you can get the information from, but let's just start by adding the first one. So the first one is testng, which will be the unit test framework that we'll be using. So let's add compile group : and the name of that group is org.testng. And then if you type name : and you can just type testng here. And now we need to provide the version. So the version we'll be using is 6.14.3. Again in quotes, so 6.14.3. And we'll just add a comment to say that it's testng. So where you can get this information is by going to a site called MVN repository, as you can see here. So for example, if I wanted testng in my automation framework, I would search for testng. I can see here that there's a result and it says org.testng, so that's the one we've just imported. If you click on it, it will show you the various versions that have been provided. So the one we're using is slightly older, but we'll continue to use it just because that's the one I've designed the framework with, and I haven't tried the new version, so can't guarantee if everything will be supported. So if you click on 7.3, if that's the one you want to use, it will then show you tabs for each of the dependency managers. For example, Maven is another dependency manager, but we're using Gradle. And you can see the dependency information that you need is already here, ready to copy and paste. There will be one slight difference, which is that test compile is specified here, whereas in our project we've used compile. The difference between them is that test compile will compile the dependency only when you're making test builds, whereas compile will compile for any build. So the reason I'm using that is just to prevent any issues from arising in this regard. So now we'll just go ahead and add the other dependencies that we need for our framework. So to duplicate a line in IntelliJ, you can just use Command D or Control D maybe on Windows. It will duplicate the line, and then we can just enter the information that we need for each row. So for the second dependency, that will be log4j, which we'll use for logging. So group will be log4j, name is again log4j, the version is 1.2.17, and we'll just give it a comment of log4j and duplicate that line. So the next two dependencies are for Cucumber, so it's io.cucumber. First one's name is cucumber-java, and the version is 4.2.6. So the reason we have two dependencies is because one is for testng compatibility, and again the version number should be the same. So if you are going to use a different version to the ones I'm using, I would recommend making line 17 and 18 the same. Next dependency is for extent reports, which we'll be using later to produce graphical reports for our test results. So the name or the group for this dependency is com.vimalselvam, and the name of this dependency is cucumber-extents report, and the version 1.1.1, and we'll just comment that. So they're actually called extent reports, but you'll notice that the name says extents report. So just be wary of that difference, because you may have a typo or encounter issues due to this discrepancy. So the other extent reports dependency we need, the group is com.eventstack, and the name extent reports -cucumber 4-adapter, and the version number is 1.0.7. And then finally, the last two dependencies are for Rest Assured. So Rest Assured is the framework we'll be using to make API requests and test the responses. So the group is io.rest-assured, and the name is rest-assured, and the version we're using is 4.0.0. And we'll just add a comment that this is for Rest Assured. And then we've got one more Rest Assured dependency, again io.rest-assured. The name is JSON-schema-validator, and again the version is 4.0.0. So that's the dependencies all added. You'll notice in the corner of the screen, the bottom right hand corner, you'll get a notification about Gradle dependencies being imported. This is just to ask you if you would like to auto import dependencies whenever you make changes to your build.gradle file. So I'm going to enable auto import. Either option is fine. Auto import just updates whenever you make a change to the file. So if I was to just change a version number, it would automatically sync and import the new dependencies. So once that's done, just let it sync, and you should hopefully not get any errors. If you do, just double check that all the information is correct, but otherwise you should be all set now in terms of your dependencies.